Uh, this is the book, so there's no tagline. Let's get it bloody with its own blood. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
Yeah.
Good writing. This is the 10th and final episode of me ever talking about Rob Zombie again. This week, Rob Zombie super fan, Katie's here.
I'm here.
I've talked about you almost every episode because everyone's like, "Where's Kit and Katie?" I was like, "Well, Katie said, fuck no, absolutely
Katie
not."
quit immediately.
I was like, Kit was on one of the episodes, so like a couple people were like, "Oh, so it's like just you, like Kit and Katie aren't here?" I was like, "Well, Katie was like, there's nothing I would rather do less than watch Rob Zombie movies." Mm-hmm. So absolutely not.
Yeah.
What Rob Zombie movies have you seen?
Let me see here.
I know 31 because that's the one that's come up every time about me and Kit forcing you to watch 31 through a rigged poll on Twitter.
Yeah, that was, I really felt betrayed by that one.
Yeah, I apologize because that movie is unwatchable.
So I've seen House of a Thousand Corpses, of course, and I actually liked that movie when it came out. Like, I still have, like, the House of a Thousand Corpses, like, theme song or whatever, like, on one of my playlists. Like, I genuinely liked the movie. I wanted to rewatch it before this, but I just, like, could not muster myself because I was like, you know what? I'll probably rewatch it again at some point, but it lives in my memory as a movie that I liked, and I'd rather just, like, keep it that way, if that makes sense. And then I did see that in the theater, and then I also saw Devil's Rejects in the theater, which I did not like. And then I think I stopped watching the movies. I tried The Munsters. I watched like 10 minutes of it and turned it off. I don't think I've seen. I really
think
you've
seen 31, your favorite.
Well, yes, I have seen 31, my favorite.
So the thing everyone had told me going into this for like years was like, if you don't like Rob Zombie movies, you should watch Lords of Salem. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And they were right. You should watch Lords of Salem because I think you specifically, I think you would like most of it. Like, there's points in it where when I was watching it that like I'd get like really invested, and then something very Rob Zombie would happen, and I'd be like, God damn it, you can't help yourself. But like it's clearly like it's a story about witches, and it's clearly like his take on like Kubrick's The Shining.
Oh.
So like there's all of these really gorgeous shots that aren't in like the rest of his movies, and these like slow, deliberate like pans down like an apartment hallway and shit like that. I don't know. It's really good and visually like really cool. But there's just weird shit happens in it where you're just like, yeah, you could not stop yourself from like writing either the worst line of dialogue or like putting some, like some weird little person comes out in like a monster costume out of nowhere and shit. You're just like, God, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say here's a tagline for the book. By the way, it says, "From the singular mind of horror maestro, Rob Zombie, comes a chilling plunge into a nightmare world where evil runs in the blood."
His taglines for all of his movies have been fucking terrible, and like I'm sure that's like a studio thing. Like I don't think he's writing them, but they're all bad. Like, Devil's Rejects is this summer, go to hell.
Yeah. I'd love to. Thank you.
So, I don't think we've actively talked about how any of my rewatches went. Because I had not...
No.
I had seen everything except Three from Hell and Lords of Salem before. But, like, there were things like House of a Thousand Corpses and, like, Devil's Rejects I had not seen in probably close to 20 years.
Sure.
And shit, like, and both, like you said, like, I saw both of those in theaters, and I was, like, a huge fan of both, and then when I got them on DVD, I was, like, or at least House of a Thousand Corpses, I was like, I don't know if this holds up for me like it did when I saw it in the theater. Devil's
Yeah.
Rejects, I've always been a fan of, but uh, I gotta say, besides three of them, I'm on board. I'm back. I'm back in.
I for one am shocked.
um, 31 still the fucking worst and just a shitty movie. The Munsters was less as shitty as I remembered it being, but still pretty bad. And then his animated movie is fucking terrible too. But like House Without the Corpses, I was like, it's weird. I would be interested if you rewatch it because it's a fucking mess of a movie. Like it's not bad per se, but it's like I was watching it and literally all I could think is like this is somebody who's like had all of these ideas for a movie and like it's like, oh, this is probably like my only chance I'm ever going to get to make a movie, so I should throw every idea in it. Like
Hmm.
there's so many like weird cutaway shots to like things that like aren't actually a part of the storyline. Like they'll just cut to like at some point it just cuts to like this weird like footage of some like dude on like a roadside yelling about how like actually there is a hell and we're living in it, like some weird like roadside like prophet dude just screaming. There's like a weird cutaway to this couple that like is talking about how like the skunk ape assaulted his wife and all this shit. That was like apparently there was like an entire subplot about like the skunk ape in the movie that was cut completely except for that for some reason.
Okay.
And like it'll like cut to scenes where like the entire thing is in like what looks like a weird Snapchat filter, and I was just like, this is fucking baffling.
Wow. Did he invent Snapchat?
And then also like Chris Hardwick and Rainn Wilson are the two like main like the two like quote unquote like heroes of the movie, and they're both fucking the most unlikable.
Yeah, I somehow like don't even recall them being in the movie.
I started it and I was like, oh my god, I forgot both of these two were in this. And this it's weird. So I would be interested if you do rewatch it at some point what your thoughts would be, because like I was like, well, like parts of this I really like, and then parts of this I'm like, god, this is fucking cringy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I listened to the audiobook of Lords of Salem, and it's weird. It's because my biggest issue throughout this entire thing has been Rob Zombie. I think has good plot ideas and terrible writing skills for them.
Sure.
Like he can like I think he's somebody that very much needs someone to like go to and be like, hey, here's like a plot outline. You write all of the dialogue.
Yeah,
Because
I could see
the
that.
thing I've come to realize is I think the only people that can really deliver his dialogue well and believable are Bill Moseley and Sid Haig. And everyone else, I'm like, this is like super cringy and terrible, and I can't deal with it. Like he he needs someone to like edit his shit, and the problem with the Lords of Salem book is like, yeah, he wrote it with someone else, but it's like I feel like the entire thing feels like it was written by like a 15-year-old who like somehow wrote an entire novel for like of like fan fiction for Lords of Salem.
I was literally gonna say fan fiction.
And like overall, I gave the book 3 out of 5 stars. Like I think it like expands relatively well on the actual story of the movie, which is like Sherry Moon Zombie plays this radio DJ that is, you find out throughout the book is like a descendant of like one of the like Salem witch hunters or whatever.
Hmm.
And so there's like this curse put upon that like these witches and like olden times cursed that like somebody from like this dude's line or whatever is gonna like end up birthing like the Antichrist. And so she gets this like this record with like nothing on it and plays it, and in the movie it like essentially just like unleashes these like witches on her, and it's just like this like weird slow like descent into like her like madness, and these witches like essentially eventually like, you know, the end of the movie is her like birthing a weird fucking demon and shit that
Okay,
looks
love that.
looks like a fucking lobster toy. That
Oh, great.
it's um but like the book, you know, because like the thing about like, you know, a novelization of a movie that I think works better than the reverse of like turning a book into a movie is like you can watch the movie and then go to like the book and you get a lot of like the inner dialogue
Mm-hmm.
and sort of like expanded things that he like, you know, you're not able to do in the movie. And I feel like you get like a less version when it's the opposite, because every director's like, well, I can't do all this like inner dialogue shit. So and like just I don't know, there's very few movie adaptations of books that I feel like are nearly as interesting as the book. So like going into the book, I was like, okay, like I started like listening to it and I was like, it's like written terribly, but like it's expanding upon the story in a way I do like. So I was like, you know, I could get past some like I said, like the fucking I texted you and I was like, one of the lines in the beginning of this book is like, should we get it bloody with its own blood? And I was like, God damn it, man, this sucks. And like literally the first 5 minutes of the movie is 7 chapters of this book.
Yeah.
And like so because like I remember talking in the episode on Lords of Salem about like there was like Rob Zombie's like somebody that seems to be cursed with movie making, to where like either the studio won't like will hire him to make something and then just fuck with him relentlessly, or
Mm-hmm.
like with Lords of Salem there was supposed to be this entire subplot throughout the movie where like it would cut back to, you know, 1400 Salem or whatever, and he was going to have Clint Howard, Udo Kier, Michael Berryman, and Sid Haig playing like witch hunters, and they're like he had to cut the entire thing because the like priest that was like the head of these witch hunters was like the actor Richard Lynch, who when he got to set, Rob realized, oh, this dude is like about to die. He's like blind. He can't read a script. He's like on death's door. This is not
Mm-hmm.
gonna work. And he's like this was a Blumhouse movie, so it was like super low budget. Like I think he shot the entire movie in like 20 days. He was like, I can't do anything with this, so I got to scrap this entire thing. And so in the movie, there's only like you only get this scene of the witches like doing a sacrifice where they think they're like birthing an antichrist or a demon or whatever, and it's like not doesn't really happen. You get this fucking extremely sick scene of one of the witches spitting on a baby, which
Ooh.
rocks. um, and then, you know, like this fucking priest shows up, and then it just cuts to like modern day or whatever, and then you get like I think a couple glimpses of like the witches, but that's about it. And so like the opening of the book, you get all of this shit from like that time period. That's pretty interesting, and I think would have been cool in the movie. And then there's shit where like in the movie, like she plays the record, I think once over the airwaves, because she listens to it at home once, and she goes into like this daze, and then she like her Ken Foray from Dawn of the Dead, and then Jeff Daniel Phillips, who Rob Zombie is a huge fan of because he loves the Geico caveman commercials. So we started casting that guy because he was the lead caveman,
Perfect.
which is the most insane fact I learned throughout all these movies. Yeah,
I love that.
I was listening to one of the commentaries, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's Jeff Daniel Phillips. I'm a huge fan of like the Geico caveman commercials." So I was like, "What the fuck?" Like the least fucking expected thing for I was like not expecting that. It caught me off guard. But so they play like the radio DJs, and they do a thing where like they'll get like some local band's record, and they'll play like a thing called like Smash or Trash or Smash or something like that. You know, like I think that was the name of Smash or Trash, where you either trash the record or it's like a smash hit, and people will call in and like if they want to keep it in like rotation. And so she plays this record, and it's like from a band called The Lords. So they're like, well, they must be a local band, so we're gonna call them the Lords of Salem. And it's like this weird, like in the movie, it's like a fucking slow like plodding drum and this weird fucked up violin sound, and you find out that what it is like this like a recording of like the witches in the 1400s playing this song. And in the movie, all of the like cut to this thing of like all of these women in their houses just like zone out. And in the book, it is that it's like you get like whole chapters where it's just different women hearing this song and they become possessed by a demon and murder their boyfriend or husband.
Oh.
And like it's kind of like a way more interesting thing that he like I guess either wasn't able to do or didn't want to do in the movie and decided to expand upon it, but like it makes for like a way more interesting idea than just like, oh, all these women just like zoned out for 3 minutes or whatever.
So he wrote the book after the movie was out?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
I guess he talked about like how much he loved like movie novelizations as a kid.
Listen,
I mean,
I get it.
I'm still in, so. And so he like, you know, I guess like a publisher reached out to him about doing one, and him and this like other author like put it together. And so like there's a lot of cool things in the book like that. But then there's also like then there's just straight up like just the scenes from the movie in it that are like, I don't know, I feel like worse off in the book because the way he like shoots things in the movie is really interesting, because I don't know when this came out in relation to things like Insidious or like Sinister or any of those sort of like more contemporary like haunting movies.
Mm-hmm.
But there's shit in the movie that he does that's like never commented on, where like there's a scene where like Sherry's character comes into the kitchen and the entire thing is lit by just like the light bulb in the refrigerator. Mm-hmm. And she'll open it to get water, and there's just like this fucked up demon in the shadows in like the corner of her kitchen.
Love it.
And there's shit like that throughout the movie, and I'm like, this rocks. Like, this is so good. And I don't... It made me so mad when I was watching it and realizing that, like, his fan base's reaction to this movie was so negative that in turn made him make 31. And 31... Because rewatching 31, like, I had seen it before you watched it. And I was like, man, this is fucking... barely a movie. It's just like a movie for like having gore for the sake of like gore.
Yeah.
And just like it's Rob Zombie at all of his worst instincts going at like 100. And I was like it sucks because it's like literally everyone that was like, I don't really like Rob Zombie movies, but this is kind of really fucking good with like Lords of Salem. And then his fan base was like, what's this arty bullshit? This sucks. And it flopped enough that he was like, I gotta like go back to what I do best, which is I don't know, it's the 70s and everyone's in fucking bell bottoms and there's some clowns, I guess.
Yeah, well, you gotta have clowns.
So like, I don't know, it was a real bummer because it was like clearly him doing something different, and like his base reacted so negatively to it that he just like reverted back to his typical shit. And I was like, man, that sucks, because like if this had done well, I really feel like one of the things I've talked about throughout these episodes, I'm like, I feel like he's somebody that has like a fucking 5-star movie in him somewhere that like between just like studio executives and then kind of just the state of like what horror is now, I don't know if he'll ever get that opportunity. Like I feel like if he had started making movies in like the 90s instead of the early 2000s, like he would have like a drastically different career. Because we talked about in the Crow episode, his first movie like he got offered he was going to do was like The Crow 2037 or whatever, like some weird futuristic Crow movie, which I can't fucking imagine what he would like do with a movie in the future instead of everything looking like the 70s.
Yeah.
because it's just like that's his shtick. So like now I'm like more interested in that idea of what his movies would look like if it took place in like a future setting, and especially with the Crow, it would have been so weird. And I kind of want that movie to happen. Like I can't even I can't even picture it because like even like Lords of Salem and I think his Halloween movies are all supposed to be like nebulous time period, like modern day. Because in Lords of Salem, people have cell phones in it, so it's like it's clearly some sort of modern time, but everyone in it is in like 70s clothes and fucking only listen to
Yeah.
like the Velvet Underground and Rush and Thin Lizzy and like whatever. And I was like, I was like, you just can't help yourself. Like he's somebody that is like so obsessed with Texas Chainsaw Massacre and shit that that's just like the only aesthetic he can fucking put out, it seems.
Yeah.
And so, give me Eric Draven in fucking flying cars.
Yeah. I like that.
You can have Edward Furlong play him still.
Yeah, please. So I looked up BK Evanson, who was the person
Yeah,
he
the other
co-wrote
author.
the book with. I guess BK Evanson is just a pen name of his because he also did a joint book with James DeMonico, who is the writer and director of The Purge. So they have a book together called Feral. And then under his pen name also, he does some alien stories. So
Oh, like maybe that's the name seemed familiar, and I wonder it's got to be why.
yeah, and then under his like actual name Brian, he also does some other video game-ish stuff. Like he's got some Dead Space stories. He has like a also like a pretty extensive I don't recognize a lot of the stuff that he's doing. So, but it looks like a lot of it was like early like 90s.
Yeah,
So, and then he started I guess translating a bunch of stuff. So,
I
I
wonder
don't
if he's
know.
just one of those people that has like a contract with whatever publisher that like he just works with, you know,
Yeah.
novels, movie novelizations to get like like help like a somebody because clearly it's not like a lot of these directors have like written a novel before.
Right. No.
So yeah, like Lord the book, I don't know. I would recommend it if anyone is like relatively interested. Like there are some like really interesting extensions of plot stuff from the movie, but like also there's like some of the scenes that are like seem straight that are like actually in the movie get a little like tedious because they're expanded so much.
Yeah.
But like there are some shit that like changes like the entire ending, like the ending in the movie, like I think if I remember correctly, Ken Foray and Jeff Daniel Phillips like both live and they don't in the book. They have like these like really fucking like brutal endings. And one of the things like Rob Zombie can at least write like a death scene pretty well.
Hmm.
Like he like the way a lot of the stuff is explained in the book, I think is pretty good cuz like for the most part I'm trying to think back cuz like I said like I had not seen Lords of Salem, so I've only watched it the one time now for this. And I think there's only really one death, maybe two in the movie. There's a shit ton in the book. And it's like
Interesting.
pretty fucking like gory where like one of the like wives like like they're like they get like this weird like whatever when the song's playing like possessed and they like carve this symbol into their chest. They like one of them like saws their husband's head off with like a fucking kitchen knife.
Love
And
it.
it's pretty interesting. And then like Jeff Daniel Phillips' character is like described as being like essentially ripped to shreds by a demon to the point where they like his just like pulp on the ground by the time he's done. It's like
Well,
it's pretty cool. Like I don't know. I would recommend it like if people have access to it. It's it's a 10-hour audiobook. It's pretty long, but like it held my attention throughout. I got to a point like I had split it over 2 shifts at work because I got about 5 or 6 hours in. I was like, all right, I need a break.
Yeah, I tried to also listen to it, but I was gate kept by Spotify, so
Yeah, like it doesn't seem to really be easily available outside of paying for it on like Audible or something, other
yeah,
than like that Spotify.
I requested that my library get it, so they're gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
Uh,
So we'll see. Maybe eventually I will.
yeah, I mean I would recommend it. Like I said, it's not like written great, but like it's interesting enough that like it held my attention throughout, and like I think the climax in the book, it's I think the fact that like he kind of kills more people off throughout it is very interesting, but like it does lack some of the really cool visual aspects that are in the movie.
Sure.
Like her like birthing this demon in the movie is like done where she's like on top of a pile of like dead naked women, where like he just like I had like 25 like women come in and they're just like naked, and like I don't know, I had this like weird image of it in like a dream, and it's like extremely like cool looking, and like the way he shoots it is really cool, but like it's just explained less interesting in the book. But I don't know, overall I thought it was pretty good, and I'm like glad I listened to it. Like it could have been way worse than what it is, because going into it I was like, man, the part about Rob Zombie I like the least is his writing, so I don't know how this is gonna go.
Yeah. Well, thank God for Brian Evanson.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
like it has a lot. It clearly somebody in the process was like, like every line of dialogue you write, I'm changing.
yeah,
But also
yeah,
like Lords of Salem in general has a lot less of his like weird bullshit in it. Like when I watched Three from Hell for this, I was like, I should make a count of how many times someone says the word motherfucker in it, because it is relentless in that movie.
hmm
And so there's like none of that in this. It's a lot more like it's a lot of like honestly, I would say half the movie is just weird shots of like Sherry Moon walking into like neon lit rooms and fucking weird things happening behind her that she can't see and shit like that. And then
hmm
like the women that play the witches are all like incredible actors. So it's like I don't know, it's like I think between the fact that it's like a slow burn movie with a lot less dialogue and stuff, it just made for like a way more interesting watch in the middle of all these than almost any of the other movies where it's just like Bill Moseley saying horrendous shit to everybody.
right.
um yeah, so I kept a list on Letterboxd with a ranking.
Okay, I was gonna ask you, so
Yeah.
good.
Uh and like I said, like overall I think like three like I doubt I'm gonna be in like a huge rush to rewatch almost any of these, but I will probably rewatch Lords of Salem again, because like I said, it was a
hmm
first time watch and one I did actually really enjoy. But only like 3 of his 9 movies I was like, this is dog shit and I will never watch again, which was surprising because I went into this being like, fuck Rob Zombie, fuck his stupid wife, all this shit. And honestly, I gotta say, I think she might be one of the best parts of most of his movies. I've had like a
Sure.
complete turnaround on Sherry Moon Zombie as an actress, like especially in like Three from Hell, which is one of the two I had not seen before. I think she's fucking really good in, because like it's the third movie in that Devil's Rejects
hmm
storyline, and like her character in it has been locked in like solitary for 10 years and has like lost her mind almost completely. And so she's playing the baby character as like this person who's lost it, but it's also like she's clearly taking influences from like the Manson family in it.
hmm
So she's like kind of like hippy dippy sort of like Manson, one of those like women you'd see those interviews in prison of like the Manson family women,
Like a
And
flower child
yeah,
kind
and
of.
so it's like
Yeah.
a really interesting take on that character that I was, and like all of the reviews were like, "Fuck, I can't stand her." Blah blah blah. I'm like, she's the only one doing like anything interesting in this movie. Because three, like, I don't know how much you remember from Devil's Rejects, but like, Three from Hell is literally a retelling of Devil's Rejects, but in like different settings. Where like the first half, like the opening of Devil's Rejects is their house getting raided and them going on the run,
Right.
and the first half of Three from Hell is them breaking out of prison and going on the run, and then in Devil's Rejects they go and find like this sanctuary in Ken Foray's brothel, but he sells them out to like the sheriff who's like trying to find them, and then he tortures them and shit. And then
Wow.
the end of Three from Hell is they go to Mexico, and this guy recognizes them as the people that killed like Danny Trejo's character, and Danny Trejo's son is like a fucking cartel boss or some shit, and so he comes to the town and is trying to kill them, and it's just like a whole fucking like redo of Devil's Rejects, and I was like, this is fine, but like completely unnecessary to exist. it I feel like it was a thing where he made Lords of Salem, it failed, and then 31 was like whatever, because he just like crowdfunded that, so I don't know. Like, I don't know if any, like, after Lords of Salem, I don't know if any of his movies have played in a theater that wasn't like one of those like Fandango, like, one night only events.
I don't know.
Because like it was 31, Three from Hell, like 31 was crowdfunded completely, and so I believe that had one of those, maybe like it played for like 2 nights in theaters, in some theaters. And then Three from Hell was kind of the same thing, where I think it came out and it had like a Fandango, like here's like a screening playing in all of our theaters, and then like a Q&A afterwards, but that was it. And then The Munsters was straight to Netflix.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was weird watching some of these again, and like I said, like I've come around on Sherry Moon, except for Lords of Salem, because she's got white girl dress and they drove me fucking crazy.
Yeah, I don't care for that.
I literally was like, I can't tell if I like, because it's the one movie where she was like, she's the actual lead of the
Right.
movie. And like I was like, she's not bad in it, but I think I want her recast, and I think it's only because I can't stand her hair in it.
Yeah, I think that's valid.
It's upsetting. But anyway, let's see. Here's my ranking. I got last place. So I did 10 movies because I have. So he did like a fake trailer for those Grindhouse movies,
Okay.
like that. Like Eli Roth did one that eventually became that Thanksgiving movie that came out recently. Hobo for a Shotgun was one of the trailers that became a movie, and there's something else, like maybe 2 other ones that became movies, and somehow his is the only one that hasn't become a movie, and it's the most interesting one. So I have it on my list as in the ranking as well.
That's
So
okay.
last
Maybe it
place,
will.
it should. I'll tell you about it when I get to it in my ranking because it
Okay.
rocks. Last place, 31.
Sure.
Fucking
No surprise.
whole half star. Absolutely does not need to exist. It sucks. Outside of Richard Brake as like that main bad guy in it, everything in it's bad. But he cast some black people in it for once, so that's good.
Well,
Outside of Ken Foray being like in most of these movies, being the only black person in any of them. Number 9, The Munsters. Went up from a half star to 1 star for me, only because I
amazing.
think Sherry Moon was actually pretty good in it. Number 8, The Haunted World of El Super Beasto, his animated movie. It sucks. It's bad. It looks good because it's animated by the same team that did like Ren and Stimpy,
Uh-huh.
and so it does that thing where like it'll be like really like like nice looking from far away, and then it'll do those like really gross, upsetting close up shots of things, of like someone's feet where their nails are all like fucking craggly and there's like stink lines coming off them and shit. So it does that stuff,
Yeah.
but like, God, man, every joke in it is like the worst Family Guy South Park style joke you've ever heard. Where it's so he made that movie with like one of his comedian friends that he's like directed a comedy special for, and like you could tell he was like, here's my plot, you come up with jokes for it, and it is so unfunny. There's like 100 jokes per minute, and it's none of them are funny. It sucks.
Yeah, the title of it alone kind of tells me what I need to
Well,
know.
it's based on like one of his comic books, because he had like he'd been doing comic books in like the 90s and 2000s, I think. And he had like different ones where he had like a Bigfoot comic, and it's just kind of like weird stuff. And it, like, I don't know what the comic's like. I don't know if he just took that character and made like a comedy out of it, but in like the comics it's like a more like horror-ish story.
Hmm.
But it's just it's brutally unfunny. Was a 7 House of a Thousand Corpses.
Oh.
It it's not bad. I gave it 2.5 stars, but it's like it's a fucking mess of a movie. Like, I will be real interested whenever you rewatch that, because it's outside. I feel like outside of Bill Moseley and Sid Haig, most of the stuff in that movie is weird and just kind of there for me. Like, the
Hmm.
entire third act is a different movie than the rest of the movie, where all of a sudden it becomes like a weird Alice in Wonderland underground cavern fucking thing, and there's like some big ass dude with a red head chasing her with an axe. She's like, it's fun. It's a weird one. Like, I don't necessarily think it's bad. I just also don't think it's good. And then, for a first time director, it's better than most first time directors. But it's the one thing I've said throughout a lot of these episodes is like, Rob Zombie is clearly somebody that wears all of his influences like on his sleeve,
Hmm.
and it's like it's just him being like, I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the Hills Have Eyes and like all that shit, just like
Yeah,
rolled up into one
we
movie.
know.
Yeah.
We get it.
10, 9, 8. Number 6, his Halloween remake. Like, I gave that 2.5 again. It's good. It's just fuck. That's the one other thing, man. All of his movies except for the animated one are like an hour 45 to two
Yeah.
hours, and I'm like, none of these need to be like that.
Yeah.
Um, his Halloween, I think, is like pretty good for the second half when it becomes more Halloween, but like literally the first 50 minutes of it is like him following like young Michael Myers, like before you
Oh.
get to modern times. So, because I guess his original idea when they were like wanted him to make Halloween, he was like, I want to make 2 movies. The first movie will end with like young Michael killing his family, like the beginning of the original Halloween, and then the second movie will be all Laurie Strode and like adult Michael Myers. And they were like, no, and so he just turned that into one movie. So it's like almost the entire first half is young Michael Myers kills his family, and then there's all of the shit with like Dr. Loomis trying to like find out like why this young kid did all this shit. And it's like, it's not necessarily bad, it's just a lot.
Hmm.
And he like just again does that shit where like Michael's family is like the most fucking southern white trash whatever, like the stepdad's leering at the teenage daughter and like threatening to beat everybody. It's just shit like that where I'm like, this is just like unfun.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not coming to a Halloween movie for like all of this shit. Just
For the white trash.
but like the thing he does well is the thing that aggravated me rewatching these is how much everyone was like, oh, Michael's like so brutal and like Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends or like whatever. And I was like, have you not seen the Rob Zombie ones? Because like his Michael Myers will stab somebody like 8 times after they're dead and like stomps someone's head into mush in like the second one. And like the thing I really liked is in both of them, the guy he cast to play Michael is like 6'8". He's fucking huge. He has this long hair, so when he puts the mask on, he has this like unkempt long hair just fucking coming out straggly from under the mask, and it makes him look more deranged. And
Yeah,
he's
it says he's 6'9".
yeah, he's like
Holy
he
shit.
was like a wrestler or something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Walls
Uh-oh.
for real. And so I don't know. It made his Michael like way more like terrifying, I think, than almost any
Yeah.
of the sequels.
I need to rewatch them because I was like unsure if I had seen them, but I was like looking at the cast and stuff and I was like, I think that maybe I have. I just didn't know they were like Rob Zombie at the time, maybe. I'm not sure. I'll have to rewatch them.
I my hot take is I think his Halloween movies are better than like almost all of the other Halloween movies outside of like the original John Carpenter and then Season of the Witch.
Yeah.
Um, the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So number 5 is Three from Hell, which I gave 3 stars. It's like I said earlier, it's a movie that doesn't like need to exist,
Hmm.
but I think like I always am down. Like I think Bill Moseley is so good as Otis. Um, I think Sherry Boone is killing it in this movie. Uh, it's it's weird because like it's another one where like his original idea didn't work because like Sid Haig died like 5 days after the movie came out,
Mm.
and it was one of those things where like I guess he had written the movie and like everyone was down to do it, and then he went and visited Sid maybe like a week or two before filming was going to start and saw how bad of a shape Sid Haig was in. It was like, oh, this is not going to work. And
Yeah.
his original idea was it was going to be like Otis and Captain Spaulding like breaking baby out of prison. And so he was like, I can't do that now. Like that was like the entire movie was just going to be a prison break movie. And so he had to like change on a dime, and it ended up being like, you get an interview with Sid Haig. Like the opening of the movie is like this true crime like documentary dude interviewing them. And so he interviews Sid Haig, and then you find out like Captain Spaulding was the got the death penalty or whatever, and was like put to death, and like does in true Rob Zombie fashion, his like final words were like not Jeffrey Dahmer, I don't know, one of those like big serial killers like final words in the electric chair, which was like, give my love to my family and friends or some shit. It's weird.
Oh.
Um, and then like the entire like I think he does a good job of like taking that sort of his like unexpected thing with like Sid Haig and like being okay, well I'll bring like Richard Brake in as their third, who was like a stepbrother to them that was like unintroduced in the other movies, and so it's they're like the three instead of Sid Haig being there. And I think
Hmm.
it works overall, but it's just kind of a movie that like I don't know, doesn't need to exist. I think the ending of Devil's Rejects is so good with that like police shootout on like the highway that I was like
Yeah.
I don't know, other than somebody giving him a shit ton of money to make it, I don't really know why this movie was made, but I think it's worth watching on just Sherry's performance in it alone. Uh Number 7 is Devil's Rejects. I still think this is his most cohesive movie, and probably his like the one that I think he had like a very specific story that he sticks to and like does the best. I think everyone in it is doing a pretty good job. Like again, Bill Moseley killing it in Devil's Rejects, but it's so I forgot how fucking just relentlessly bleak and upsetting almost all of that movie is. And John watched it with me, and he had not. I, for some reason, thought he had seen a bunch of these movies before. This is his first Rob Zombie movie. He didn't know it was a sequel.
Oh.
And so he came in, he was like, I got a lot of questions.
Oh no.
um, but he also pointed out to me that the entire storyline is almost point by point the storyline of The Empire Strikes Back.
I absolutely knew you were going to say a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, he like broke it down, and I was like, that's crazy. And I don't know if it was a thing where like, because Rob Zombie's of the right age that he was probably obsessed with Star Wars as a kid.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a thing where he just like unconsciously did that, or if it's, was on purpose. But I don't know. It works. Um, Number 8, Lords of Salem. Honestly, probably I think his best movie. But like, I think that would probably be my number 1 after I give it a couple more rewatches. But like it, or yeah, not number 8. That would be 10 Nights 3. Is Lords of Salem. It's like
Yeah. I was
it's
like, you started
yeah
counting down and then you flipped it. I was
yeah.
like, you
I
know
don't
what?
know.
I know what you're
Whatever.
saying. It's fine.
it's it's super good. It's really interesting. I think the highlight of that movie is Judy Geeson, Meg Foster, and Patricia Quinn as like the 3 witches in it that like are like the modern day witches. Like they're, I don't know. There's a scene where they kill this one dude by fucking beating his head in with a fucking frying pan, and like just, I don't know. They're fucking great in it. It's visually really interesting, and I think more people should watch it and give it a good rating, because show old Robbie Zombert that movie is that style of movie is worth him trying to do again, instead of this weird garbage like 31 that he seems to be doing. Number 2, his Werewolf Women of the SS trailer from Grindhouse. It fucking rocks. It's got, it's like, clearly it's like a movie about Nazis creating werewolf women, but
Well,
it has
why not?
Nick Cage in it, Udo Kier, Sybil Danning, Bill Moseley. Sherry's obviously the head werewolf woman. Like it, it made me so mad watching it, being like, how did we get Eli Roth Thanksgiving and not this fucking weird ass movie about like the Nazis creating werewolves and shit?
That's really the question, I think.
It made, like, Jeremy and I talked about it because it came out like right before Halloween, and he was on the Halloween episode, so we talked about that, and I was like, God, this looks so good. It would be so fun as a full length movie, and it makes me so mad just based on everything else that got made from those trailers. And then my favorite one, Halloween 2.
Wow, okay.
Un Unpopular opinion, because everyone seems to hate that movie, and it's fucking great. Like, the director's cut, he goes in hard on like Laurie's trauma and PTSD and how she's like slowly kind of like losing her mind. Like, he, again, like, this is all based on the director's cut. The theatrical cut is like whatever, but like the director's cut, he was like, I'm not doing one of these again, and kills off Michael, Laurie, and Loomis in it.
Amazing.
Like, it's his most interesting take. Like, I've always kind of been a defender of this movie as like, hey, as far as a Halloween movie goes, I have full respect for him taking a weird swing with it, like where there's all of this shit where Michael is being haunted by his dead mom, played by Sherry Moon, who's just constantly got this white horse with her. And like, there's just all of this weird shit in it. And I was like, you know what? Like, as far as someone making a Halloween movie, this is way more interesting than almost any of the other sequels. And like, Michael is like just unrelentingly violent throughout. There's a bunch of shit where like, well, it's shot on 16 millimeter, so it looks gorgeous. Like, he does a lot of shit with like natural lighting in it, where there's this entire scene where Michael kills a cop out in front of the house Laurie's staying at, but the entire scene is lit only by like the porch lights.
Mm-hmm.
And he just does like interesting shit like that. There's like this one scene where these like rednecks come across Michael, who is like, I don't know, eating fucking dogs and shit to survive. And like he's just like walking through this farmland, and these two rednecks come up. They're like, I told you not to come here again, blah blah blah. And they start like beating the shit out of Michael until he fucking kills them. Like, really violently, but the entire thing is only lit by like the truck headlights. And so I
Yeah.
don't know. He just does really interesting shit in that movie with that. On top of like what I think is a really interesting movie about trauma and like PTSD and how like almost everyone in that movie is dealing with the aftermath of these attacks from I forget whatever time period is supposed to take place afterwards. And it's I don't know, I think it's really good and I think more people should try to rewatch it and reevaluate it cuz it's I don't know, I thought it was very good. Brad Dourif plays like the sheriff in both of them and he's killing
That
it.
that's why I feel like I have seen them
You
because it
probably
sounds
have, but
familiar,
like
but I'll have to rewatch.
most of them like again, like one of the problems is like both of his Halloweens are like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like they're so long, but like I don't know. I back Halloween 2 is at least my favorite of his. I feel like if anything, I'll probably rewatch that and Lords of Salem. I don't know if I'll ever dive into the rest of them
Hmm.
again. Like I could see at least maybe watching like Devil's Rejects again, but Halloween 2 also has Weird Al in it, so like come on.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, wait, what?
There's a segment where Loomis, because in this one Loomis is doing like his book tour for writing a book about Michael Myers and being his doctor and all that shit, and he goes on like a talk show that Chris Hardwick is hosting, and the other guest is Weird Al, and I
Oh,
guess
okay.
I think like Rob Zombie said in the commentary that there was supposed to be someone else, and Chris Hardwick was like, "I get like Weird Al down here," and Weird Al was like, "My only fucking thing is like I'll absolutely do it, but I just you have to let me wear my outfits." It's
Sure.
so it cuts from all of this like you know typical Rob Zombie like 70s fashion, even though it's supposed to be taking place in modern times. And then there's just Weird Al in his whole like Hawaiian shirts, like, and he's like he. That's the thing. So like he said both of his Halloweens are supposed to be like he never states a time period. Everyone is using like landline phones and shit like that. So the first one you're watching it, you're like, okay, this is probably supposed to be taking place in the 70s. Then you cut to Halloween 2, where like Loomis is on there and Weird Al's making fun of him, and he's like, Michael Myers, you mean like the Shagadelic guy? And so he's clearly like
Uh,
referencing Austin Powers and shit, and I was like, what is happening?
yeah. That's just like I remember like texting you as I was watching this. So I was watching The Love Witch,
Mm.
and it like very overall has like a 60s like vibe to it. And you're like watching the whole movie, and then at the end somebody pulls out a cell phone and I was like, "Excuse me?"
That was how like Lords of Salem I was watching it, and I'm like, the radio DJs are putting on like vinyl records and shit.
Yeah.
And then you get towards like the end, because like one of the whole subplots is like Sherry Moon's character used to be like a using drugs heavily and all this shit, and like got clean. And so like they do the thing that kind of like the Evil Dead remake does, where like as the possession shit starts, everyone's just like, "Oh, are you using again?" Blah blah
Right.
blah. Like she's losing like huge track of time, shit like that. But at some point, like Jeff Daniel Phillips' character shows up to her house and like goes to like call for an ambulance or some shit and pulls out a cell phone, and I was like, wait, is this supposed to be in modern times? Because like every like fucking Ken Foray's driving like a fucking big ass Oldsmobile with like dice hanging in the mirror and shit, and I was like, they're all wearing bell bottoms. I was like, everything in this movie until someone pulls out a cell phone, I just assumed this was the 70s.
Right. And like to be fair, like overall to me, it doesn't super matter like when it takes place,
Yeah.
but that kind of stuff to me, I'm just like you couldn't just like I don't know.
I again like so like I guess like overall like I'll probably watch if he does something like again, because like I haven't seen any news about him doing a movie since the Munsters. But
I don't think
I
so.
heard him talk in some of the commentaries about just being like, I'm somebody that like if I'm doing music stuff, I'm not thinking about movies. I'm just like I can only focus on like the one thing at a time.
Hmm.
So like I don't know. I don't know if he's got anything in the pipeline. I really wish he had like. I went into this like deep dive of like his unmade movie stuff he was attached to, and I desperately want him to do any of those. Like, I clearly The Crow's never going to happen, but that would have been really interesting. He had he had been attached to do a Blob remake
Oh,
that he one of the things I read was like his idea was it was going to be a lot like The Thing, where instead of it just being this like one big like gelatinous thing, all of it would have been like these weird zombie like creatures that like melted down into goo.
okay.
Which I was like, that's an interesting take. I'd like to see that. He was like one of the things I think he does super well is shoot violence, and so he was attached to do a movie called Tyrannosaurus Rex that was based on one of his comic books that originally I thought was literally just a dinosaur movie, but is actually a movie about like this boxer that he wanted to make this like super violent 70s like Raging Bull style boxing movie, which I thought would have been pretty interesting. And then he was also attached to do this movie about this like extremely violent like hockey team, which I thought would have been also pretty interesting. And at some point, he was supposed to do a Groucho Marx biopic, which I really wanted to happen because like I want to see what he would do with something that's like not in his normal wheelhouse.
Hmm.
Which, like, you know, I guess he kind of does with the monsters, but that's still like horror
I was gonna say that's
stuff.
yeah. It's
Like,
still like a over the top too.
yeah. And so, like, I feel like him, like, I want to see him do like something like that that would have just been like this weird, like, just a weird thing for him to be attached to, and like, I don't know. It just feels like every time he's like in the process of like, because a bunch of those like made it to some sort of like pre-production stages where like, and then just for what one reason or another he either dropped out or the entire thing fell apart. But like it just feels like he constantly reverts to like his aesthetic, and I want to see him do something else because I don't know. After all these watches, I'm like I'm rooting for him. Make something good. I believe he's got like, even if it's something like the thing Jeremy and I talked about with Halloween is we were like, how has no one been like, just make a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie? Like, they make those all the fucking time and they're trash. Let's let him do one.
Right.
Like, if he could make anything, if he could do a remake that I think would be fitting enough, it'd be that or like one of those other like I kept saying Eaten Alive, which I don't know if you've seen.
I don't think so.
It's like the Toby Hooper's movie after Texas Chainsaw Massacre that's like kind of feels like that, but it's about this guy who runs like a motel and he's like feeding people to an alligator and shit.
Oh,
And like I don't know, like I want to see him do something along those lines, like if because I don't know, like he's like constantly like against the idea of doing remakes, but also seems to constantly keep getting attached to them. So I'm like, give him one that makes sense. Like he's the
yeah.
last person I would have thought of for a Halloween or like the Blob or even like the Munsters. As much as he like clearly loves those characters, that just feels like so against his style that like I don't know. I think it's as much as I don't like that Munsters movie he did. Like you know, it at least was like outside of his wheelhouse a little bit, outside of it just being like Universal monster characters or whatever. So I don't know. Overall, glad I rewatched most of these. I will absolutely watch whatever he does next. Um,
Wow. I can't believe
I
2025
I
is.
literally I went into this being like, God, this is gonna suck so much. And like overall, like his like I don't think any of his movies are necessarily masterpieces, but like I definitely feel like I've been way harsher. I feel like the internet definitely like the amount of hate he gets just definitely like clouded my
Exacerbate
idea
it.
of like
Yeah.
what I remembered his movies being like, and they for the most part hold up. Like
Yeah, like, do you remember that one time? We don't know that this is correlated, but one time we got a new Patreon subscriber, and then the episode that came out after that was I'm sure Kit was involved, but I remember largely me and you just like going off about like how much we don't like Rob Zombie and whatever. And then that person immediately unfollowed, like unsubscribed from the Patreon, and we
Yeah,
were like,
checks out.
sorry. So sorry to that person. I'm sure there's absolutely no way that you're still in any way, shape, or form involved with us, but
I really expected. I was like, this is gonna be a slog. Every episode's gonna be like, fuck Rob Zombie, fuck his dumb wife. I hate this, but like somehow she became like one of, I feel like, the better parts of most of his movies. Like
sure.
I again, like all of the reviews of Three from Hell where everyone was like, she's unbearable in this, and both Caitlin and I were like, I think she's the best part of this movie. She's doing like something really interesting, and is for somebody that like, I think really listening to the Devil's Rejects commentary, like, because he does one, and then like Sherry, Bill Moseley, and Sid Haig do their own separate one, and they kind of ask her, they're like, we've both been acting for fucking, Sid Haig's been acting since the 50s, Bill Moseley's been acting since probably like the 70s or 80s or whatever. And they're like, what's it been like, doing these movies? And she was like, I don't want to do these movies. She was like, I did not want to be an actor, but it was a thing where like House of a Thousand Corpses happened, and Rob was like, I want you to be in the movie. And so she was like, yeah, he's making his first movie, I'll do it, whatever. And it just became like a thing going forward where he like, I kind of throughout this, it dawned on me how much, like, I was like, he's like the horror version of like Kevin Smith, where like he gets like shit on all the time on the internet for really no reason, because he's not bothering anybody. He's just making the movies he wants to make. He's just wants to work with his friends, and like his movies come, like, the reason he keeps getting to make movies is like he has his fan base that will go see them, and like his movies make a profit in the end. So like he's going to continue getting to make movies. And so, like, I don't know, I can't really hate on him for that. As much as a lot of the aspects of some of these movies don't work for me, like, he's just a dude out there making his art the way he wants to do it, whether you like it or not. And, like, he's Ultimate Wife Guy. He's going to let you know that his wife is hot. And
yeah, I mean, he's just out here loving his wife and showing her off and stuff,
yeah.
which I, for one, can definitely get behind.
So,
like, I do remember, I can't imagine myself doing this, watching all the movies. I think I'll definitely, like, either watch or read Lords of Salem. Maybe I'll rewatch Halloween. But I do remember, like, one of the things we kind of talked about, I was watching what was that show that came out forever ago? And it was like Eli Roth.
that History of Horror show or whatever?
Yeah. And I remember talking about this, like, when that came out, that, like, I recant my statement on Eli Roth because I cannot stand him, and, like, the older I get, the more I find him to be repulsive. But he had Rob Zombie on there, and one of the he seems genuinely just like he's like a nerd guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's just like very genuinely into the things that he's into with like passion, and he loves to talk about it. And so, like, even if like you do have to respect that. Like, he is just like, I mean, I was gonna say he's living his best life. Like, he's maybe not, because, like, if you put out something like Lords of Salem and then everyone shits on it and you're like, oh, I mean, it makes sense to me because, like, people don't like good movies, you know what I mean? But it doesn't actually surprise me to know that you found that to be like one of his better movies, like, given the circumstances. But I'm willing to give him another chance.
I definitely, I'll be interested if you watch Lords of Salem, because it's like, it's very much like The Void, where like it's a real vibe movie
I could see
where
that.
like things just kind of happen and you kind of have to be on its wavelength or you're not. And like if you're not, it's going to be unwatchable. But like he doesn't, like, it's just one of those movies, he doesn't really explain shit. Like, things are just happening and you just kind of have to go with it or you don't, and it's good. Like, I kind of really would like to see him do something along those lines again, because man, 31, absolute fucking dog shit movie.
Yeah.
I like if that movie had 30 minutes cut out from it, because it's another one where it's like an hour 50 or some shit.
Well, and you know how I feel about
Yeah.
that, so.
Like, I feel like if you made that as just a tight 90-minute, like, just a movie, like, you know, like, what is essentially like a slasher movie? Because that's all it
Hmm.
is. It's just like a bunch of, it's like a slasher meets like a Saw movie, because it's just a bunch of people trapped in a warehouse just fighting their way out. Like, it would be more tolerable, I think. And it wouldn't be as bad, but man, it's so long and just shitty. Like, um,
Yeah,
I will say, do you remember the little guy that has like plays the fucking Nazi dude in that movie?
probably.
Like the first guy they have to fight is this like little person that's got like a big swastika painted on his chest, and he's like speaking.
Yes.
That guy, that actor, comes back in Three from Hell in the most opposite role, and he's like one of the best parts of the movie where he's like in Mexico. He's like this guy that you kind of think Sherry Moon's character might have a crush on, and they have all of
Yeah.
these really fun like back and forths, and I was like, man, this is fucking awesome. Like I like that he's his range from going from like a dude just yelling Nazi shit in Spanish to fucking playing like the sweetest character in a Rob Zombie movie was did not I did not expect it. So, yeah, overall, I'm in. I'll watch what he does next. Like nothing, nothing outside of Lords of Salem really like caught me off guard, except for the fact that I like enjoyed them because
Right.
I had seen everything else besides Lords and Three from Hell, and you know I don't know, it was fine. I don't feel the need to watch most of these again, but like I said,
Yeah.
I'll rewatch Lords of Salem. I'll probably rewatch Halloween 2 at some point. Like the Halloween ones, like anytime, like once every couple of years, I'm like I should just rewatch the whole Halloween franchise for some reason. So those will get a rewatch at some point. But
That's fair.
yeah, I don't know. Thanks to everybody that fucking joined me for these. Sorry, Dylan, for having to watch 31.
I was gonna say, to be very honest, Dylan, fitting.
Yeah, like I forget like what his response was when I reached out, because like I kind of was like, I asked Shane first because I knew he was gonna pick House of a Thousand Corpses,
Right.
and then I kind of just like went down a line of people and was like, here's what's left, and I forget if Dylan just had nothing left or was just like, well, I haven't seen these, and I was like, well, you should do 31 because no one's gonna pick these and you're gonna hate it, so. Like Lori specifically was like, I have access to Devil's Rejects in the animated movie, so I was like, okay, you get the animated movie because no one's gonna pick this.
Right.
And then a couple of people were like that. Sheridan specifically was like, I want to do the Munsters because I want to shit all over that movie, and then she unironically liked it. So,
Amazing.
but yeah, I mean, overall, like I don't know if watching them all in such a close proximity helped me enjoy them
Yeah.
more or not, because I was very much in like I did like for anyone listening to these that doesn't know, all of the I recorded almost all of these within a month time span, and like maybe a little less. I don't know. I don't remember. It's been like at least 3 weeks, but like it might have been around 3 weeks that I did all 10 of these episodes. Like at one point, I was like, I'm gonna listen to White Zombie. I was in like a very fucking Rob Zombie headspace for like a month, and so I don't know if like that sort of clouded it or not. But whatever, it worked.
I mean, probably,
I
but
had
whatever.
I
Yeah.
had more fun watching these than I thought I was going to. So I guess that's good. Now I can go back to watching fucking Arkansas Women's Prison Massacre bullshit. My work has left Tubi on the TV at work, so I've been
Yeah, that's a mistake.
I one night I just put Mac and Me on and just let it play.
Oh
So
my
it was just
God.
going into more shit like Mac and Me. I put on fucking
I saw Thinner.
yeah, I had Thinner on last night, and then somebody immediately came in and turned it on to something else.
No.
It was like right after the blowjob scene, so I was like, yeah, fair. All right. The ad. No more Rob Zombie for me. until something new comes out. I hope you, Robert, on my Zombert, but why?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have done a single yeah this whole time.
What?
I was going to, I forgot because this ran longer than I expected it to. I was going to read you some of the song titles from some of his songs because I went through his Wikipedia and I was looking at shit and I was like, this dude has lost his fucking mind. Every song title is like fucking 100 words long, and it's like the carnivorous carnival of venomous vampire witches, and I was like, Jesus Christ, dude, come on.